We're with Sickness here, the second Blood Ties audio interview, and
No Fun Fest.
No Fun Fest 2006.
2006.
Yes. So how did you like your set this year? How did you feel about it?
It was good, and it's one of the more positive. It was nice to have like people in front, and like friends of mine were in front, and then the crowd actually got into it rather than sitting back stoically and watching me do my thing. And like, oh, you twiddle knobs. Oh, okay. Because if you get feedback from the audience, it always leads to a overall better show. And yeah, I was actually happy with it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it myself.
The crowd seemed real into it.
Yeah,
Got a really good response.
You just got that.
Uh-oh.
You just got that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Dominic.
At least you did you
Jorge
pay
has
for
the
it?
new Sickness record in his hands.
Oh, all right.
So how do you feel about the new album?
It's not a new album. Actually, it's a reissue of a limited edition CDR I did.
All right.
In
25 copies?
25, but it's more actually like 15. But I don't know how many.
Lazy.
No, just I did that out of. Let's see. I had the wooden boxes with the slide door were $10 a piece. Then all the stain I had to use, which was one can for 2 coats of red stain, and then a varnish on top. Then all the color printing I did, because all the cards inside were color printed on special paper, and the inside of the boxes was velvet lined. So I had to pay my girlfriend at the time to cut the velvet and glue it in. I stained all the boxes. The total cost was like $27, and I charged $25 or $30 with shipping for the box. So I was losing my ass on it, and then finally after and it was made specifically for people fans of true crime who understood, because the pictures were sensitive in nature and they weren't any bullshit off the internet. It wasn't like, I'll download some pictures, and they were real crime scene photos. They were a related case. The whole release came from when they did the Martha Moxley case. They reopened it after God knows how long, and her picture was in the Boston Globe on the front page, like a black and white drawing. It said "sought for slaying" underneath. Just seemed rather odd. Martha Moxley sought for slaying. It's like I forget the guy's name who did it, was being sought. Yeah, they were trying to press charges again. So the LP is the re-release. A lot of people have been trying to get me to do it for over the years, and I've said no because I've wanted it to remain special for the people who were cool enough at the time who bought the expensive release at the time. And it has none of the collaboration tracks that I did with Taint or Skin Crime.
That's good.
It has, but all the other stuff is in there, and it's been remastered for vinyl, and it really sounds sick. So I'm very happy with the release, and I'm glad Dom was able to do it, and that we were able to compromise on doing it my way rather than people were like, because it was, I forget how many minutes. It wouldn't fit on LP unless it was mastered very, very softly, and then what the hell's the point? So
Right.
But I'm very happy that it came out.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
You're kind of doing a thing with bringing things back now. You've brought back the Ninth Circle label.
I have a job that affords me the money to be able to do that, and I'm sick of. The labels I've worked with have been really cool to me. Like Koji's label, like doing something on Denzatsu and Hospital and a bunch of other stuff. I've admired, like Ground Fault. I've worked with a lot of people, but I want more control over my stuff, and I want certain things to be reissued. So started with the Killer Bug, and Phil from Tronics helped me do that, and then working with Pat about doing an Ome LP on self-abuse. That's where the next Ome release came from, is that the material wouldn't fit on LP again with the bass frequencies, and tracks were too long. But I wanted it to come out. It's stuff that I've been working on for the last year and a half. And then Dominic's Point and Void, we worked together on that with me remastering it and him editing it. And so it all worked out. Ninth Circle's the rebirth is just my kind of way of getting stuff out there, probably before I quit. So, but that, and there's going to be a
quitter.
Yeah, that's me.
By the way, that's Jorge from Cornucopia.
Fucking years? No. 2006 is a 20th year anniversary.
Whatever.
So,
Well, congratulations on the 20 years. What got you started in noise originally?
I was sick and tired of the fucking punk band I was supposedly in, a hardcore band. And I was 16, a bunch of kids in high school. Our bassist didn't really have a bass it was all a lot of talk and.
Bands fucking suck in general.
No, I'm also
being in a band.
too much of an asshole to to work with anybody. So
sums up a lot of people in the noise scene.
And they were just a lot of talk, and I'm like, well, were you going to practice and play shows, or are you just going to talk about how cool you want to be? So they went off and they never did anything, and I started working with tape loops and other stuff to make my own crap, and I just desire to do music and put actions and thoughts into sound, because I used to write. I mean, I majored in English in college, and
You're an illustrator now, or
I'm a graphic designer.
Graphic designer?
Yep. I do apps, custom publishing. I mean.
So you tend to do more of the true crime stuff with the harsh stuff, and then Oh My seems to be more sort of intrinsic. What kind of relationship do you feel with the sounds? Why would the harsh stuff be more harsh noise versus?
Well, Ome is just, I had two ways. Sickness is 1,000 thoughts in 1 minute, and Ome is one thought for 1,000 years. So that's the way I work with it. Ome is just repetition, it's the way I think. So with sickness, sickness really doesn't have any kind of really focus except for illness, mental, physical, addiction. Everybody's the little flaws. I mean, Ome means failure in Japanese, and the stigma that's carried with it. So it's kind of like post-traumatic stress disorder, how people work through stuff in their heads constantly, time and time again, and that's what Ome is about, is thinking about the one thing you could have done differently to make a situation better. And I think about something like that over and over and over until the stress or the anxiety over the event is done. Sickness is just, it's not a release, it's a controlled release. It's the difference between, it's not turning on and off a switch, but it's more of a build up and concentration on one thought, but cut up into 1,000 different pieces.
So, you sort of seem to have gone into a little bit of Omi material in some sickness releases,
actually,
the 3-inch.
The only time I've ever done that, well, the 3-inch, the Mouth Records release, if that's what you're referring to, is Chris from Mouth Records wanted one long piece. And I'm not the kind of person who will do the kind of, solid, harsh noise for 20 minutes in a wall, so I wanted to have it be a piece that started out and then moved a bit more and more structured than that. And that, Ome is definitely more like that. The only time I've actually used Ome material was an unreleased track that went for a comp that never came out, and I cut up that in with Sickness stuff, and that's on the Flesh and Bone CD. So there's harsh noise and then just an echoed loop, and I think it worked pretty well, but that album seems to be less than well received by certain people, so it wasn't as technically cut up. It was more dirty, and it was about flesh and bone. I mean, each one's for humanity, so
I think that's a pretty solid album. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Talking about live stuff, you've toured a lot of different places. You've been to Europe, you've been to Japan, you've been, I'm sure, numerous places all over the U.S. What's been your favorite tour, your favorite location?
Japan, Tokyo and Japan, the first show we played. And I've been dying to go to Japan for 5 years, maybe 10 years to go to Japan.
6. You went in 2004, right? 2004?
3, the end of 3. But
well, that would make 5-6 years.
Yep. So I've been trying to get there for a really long time, and to have Koji actually invite me and do a CD and then host us, it was and to play with all those people, especially all the friends I've had contact with over, God knows how many years. So it was nice to go over. But the best show in front of 100+ people was in Tokyo. It was the best reception I've ever had. It was the first time the crowd was really up front, really into it, really excited, no matter how violent it got. And it turned out really, really well. And I played after the Incapacitant, so I was unbelievably nervous about it.
A little hard to top.
Yeah, so I can say I held my own, confidently say I held my own, and it's backed up by other people. So it was nice to play there. And my favorite city for visiting, besides we were in Latvia, in Riga, was just the nicest city. Poland, we had the best time. But the nicest place just to be was Kyoto. It was just such a great city, and the people were really, really nice. And it actually had some downtime, and the city actually was kind of relaxing, and the show went well. The whole day was great. Tokyo was kind of run around. I got off a plane, 14-hour plane trip. You got a 2-hour bus ride from the airport in traffic. We get there, we're exhausted. We get something to eat, we go to bed, we wake up the next morning. It's freezing cold in Koji's house because they don't use heat. At night they use space heaters because the prices are so high. It was nuts. You go to the venue, you're like, sound check. But that was just such a tension buildup, and then to actually get it all out and to have the crowd respond in that way, it was too many years of wanting to go, and it actually did match my expectations. Like, brilliant sound system, and just everything worked perfectly and came out the way I wanted it to. So,
in contrast, what was the worst?
Phoenix, Arizona.
Any particular reason?
Yes. Never tell me that it was a well set up show, and I'm going to be politically correct about it. Ben Ricardo from Clueless Theseus set it up. I don't know how many tickets pre-sold, but they were like, there wasn't a whole lot of people in attendance. It was a first-time show set up. There were a lot of artists. It took me, my first plane, the flight was canceled. They rebooked me on a second flight. That was canceled. I went to a third plane. Now, you think by the third time I would have learned that this was obviously not destined to be. But I get on my flight. I fly to Chicago to get my connecting flight. The plane's delayed, so I missed my connecting flight. They put me on the second connecting flight. I get to Phoenix. My gear is stolen off the conveyor belt by someone. They find it in the bathroom. I have to go through a police interrogation to get my gear back. I finally get there, I settle down, I go and play, and there are about 15 people. It doesn't really matter. It's just like, and I was told there would be like 100 plus people there. We're going to be packed. It's going to sell out. Don't stroke me to get me to come to a play. Just tell me the truth. And I understand that everybody has different expectations of what was going on, but Phoenix was just too much energy put out for. It was a good show. I had a really good set. I got to see a lot of friends, so it was good, but it could have been much better, and I would have been much happier if I had just listened to my gut and gone, all right, you tried, you did 2 flights, well, fuck it. Yeah. But, it's no fault of anybody. It's just a bunch of bad circumstances that come down to it. So, that was the bottom out shithole of. And I've played, like, the only time I could compare it to is playing the South Athenaeum. Like, it was like a commune, a bunch of kids in a squat. I got to sleep in a drum room. After the show, I'm really fucking tired. Like, the drum room, and I'm sleeping on a mattress. There are people partying at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I've got to get up at 9 to drive 13 hours to, like, North Carolina. And I'm finally fall asleep, and then some kid comes in and actually practices on the drums while I'm attempting to sleep. Scared the crap out of me. And I'm like, he's like, oh, dude, I'm really sorry. Were you sleeping? No, I'm just lying prone on a mattress because I'm drunk. But so those are the 2 boner shows of absolutely everything.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep you too long.
No, you can whatever. I mean,
just one quick last question.
Yeah, sure.
I think a lot of people
wait
know.
Wait a second. I have another question.
Oh, you have
you
another
guys
one?
can both ask.
All right. Well, my last question is, how big is your pedal collection?
It's actually much smaller. I've sold out about $3,000 worth of gear in the last 6 months. I don't need it anymore. I'm winding down, trying to do this. I know what I can use and use regularly and use well. So I used to collect tons of stuff. I think I talked to Tim about a grand total of rack mount and pedal effects, and it got up over the 100 mark. Wow. with like 15 to 16 different rack mount things, and it doesn't really matter what you use. It's just what I want to use and how I want to sound, and I like the number of options I had. And then after a time, I was like, okay, well, certain options, and I don't really need this gear. And sometimes having 17,000 options isn't a good thing. It's like, oh, well, it could use well, and it screws up the process of just getting the show and getting it done. And over time, I've realized that well, if I have 17 pedals on my table while I'm doing my set, well, that's 51 different knobs I have to twiddle, and it gets oh, I never used that pedal, I never did that. So keeping it simple, keeping it easy, and getting the sound I want is what I'm focusing on now. So
my question was, as far as I'm concerned, from the stuff that I have of yours, it seems like I Have Become the Disease is probably one of the album that sort of defined your sound. As it seems like, that real like cut up style with a lot of like reverberating interludes, and I don't know, I would consider it like kind of a really good album. I mean, how did you like come off of that? I mean, because I know it got good reviews and a lot of people had to talk. I mean, how do you come off of something like that successful?
You just record. That's it. And I try and find different ways to do what I do, different tricks of sound, different approaches to how I record.
Do you feel like you've progressed a lot since then?
Yeah, I mean, each album has to be different for me. I'm not going to... The problem is I never shit out something. I never just do a release to do a release.
Some people wouldn't consider that a problem, but...
Yeah, it becomes a problem because the noise scene in general... It really does seem that if you shit out something every couple weeks, people are like, oh yeah, this guy, I mean, I got all his stuff, and it's where they really seem to go. And as long as it's new, people don't care. And to each his own, whatever they want to do. But I'm just going to carve out what I need to carve out when I have to do it. But I Have Become the Disease needed to be the release that it is because Eric Hoffman approached me with the idea of doing a Groundfall CD. Being the first American artist to be a Series 3 meant a lot to me, and it was also my first CD release. Somebody's going to spend, $1,200, $1,300 on a release for me. I got to produce something that works. And I wanted to give everybody the finger. Fuck you. This is. I've seen people, and it's not arrogance. It's just I wanted to say, go fuck yourself. This is what can be done if you take the time. And it's not the sound quality, it's just the thought in general that went into it. And I needed to do that for myself, for Eric, and for, just 17 minutes of it's just, and I can do it in my sleep.
Yeah.
A lot of people can. And there are a lot of people love that style. It's all good. But I wanted to say, I want to put the bar here and go, all right, jump over it.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to do. And the next release after that was actually... I think Flesh and Bone, which I had been working on about the same time. And what?
That's the next one I got.
Okay, and that was supposed to be an LSD org release.
Oh,
it was supposed to be a
don't
10-inch
get me on that.
10-inch and a 7-inch in a box.
Yep, and it's beautiful packaging.
Yeah,
but
we had it all designed, and then he disappeared again. So here he is. Whatever. But.
It could have been yours.
Yeah, it could have been mine. It could have been good. He did beautiful packaging. So,
yeah.
Maybe one day I'll do that, but I don't have enough money right now to rent a 10-inch and a 7-inch together in a folding case.
Yeah.
But just doing noise off of, just each release is just each release. Approach it in the best way I can. And I don't try and do the same record twice. And I don't know how. I don't care how it's received. I'm doing it for myself and for the people who do appreciate it.
Yep.
And if you like it, good. And if you don't like it, that's fine. But if you're gonna bust my nuts about my sound, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So any last words?
No. Thank you for doing the interview.
All right.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.